Everybody's got a family tree, right? But filling in the branches, that's where my adventure begins. I decided to go ahead and try to fill out my family tree while I can remember some things. Thought it'd be neat to pass it on to my kids. Well, three of my grandparents were born in Austria, Poland. At the time they were born in the late 1800s. Um, Poland was ruled by Austria, and I found some birth certificates or some things that said where they were born, and they all said Austria, of Polish descent, but born in Austria. Um, the borders finally got changed out, and it's now called Poland. Well, I started with my dad's father, my grandfather, just because I got the name. So first thing I do is go to Ellis Island, put in Wynorski. Nothing. I tried different spellings, variations, still nothing. So I put on Facebook that I was trying to do my family tree. And one of my cousins said that she had my grandfather's declaration of intention, which was basically an application for their green card at the time. And I don't know if it was a green card, but it was a declaration of intention to work in the United States. And declaration of intention, it was spelled a little bit different. Instead of Wonorski, how we now spell it, it was Wonaroski. So I tried that. To look up my grandmother. I knew they were married in Pennsylvania, in Boswell. So I put in her last name, and I found a marriage license. And the marriage license was kind of funny because the top part of the license, it said the original marriage license, and it was written in cursive, which was so hard to guess what the spelling was. But it looked different. And then at the bottom, it was like somebody asked for a copy of it. So there was a certified copy that was signed on the bottom, which was spelled different once again. So I knew my grandfather was murdered in a bar. Well, I knew he was killed and shot in a bar. So I'm come to find out that it was actually called a murder. He was at a bar in Jenners, Pennsylvania at 2 o'clock in the morning, and a couple of guys had got into a fight. And one of them, the guy who got beat up, left. Well, he came back a while later with a gun and asked for the guy who beat him up, and my grandfather said, "He's not here, he went home." So the guy looked at him and said, "Well, I guess I'll just shoot you." And that's what he did. And I found a newspaper article on that, which spelled the name another way. Can you believe it? But once I found that, I was then able to find they had information about where the funeral was. So I looked up the church, did some searching, and I found the graveyard where he was probably buried. And when I was like 5 or 6 years old, I remember vaguely was with my parents, and we visited in we visited Boswell, and I remember my dad wanting to look for his father's grave. So we did. And I remember seeing it. My mom had a picture of it. Cannot find the picture. I've got a lot of her old pictures, but never found that picture again. But I remember it being spelled with a J and maybe a Z in it. So I'm looking at the graveyard and I find his tombstone. And I was correct. It was spelled different. It was spelled with a J. It was WjonarOski. And his first name was not, it was the Polish version of Joe. It was Juzef. So I was right. There was a Z and a J in the name. But the Z was in his first name, not in the last name. So I was able to get some information to fill my grandfather's date of birth. Unfortunately, his the day he died. And that was the beginning of my tree. I'll let you know how the rest of it goes. Hopefully it'll work out a little bit easier. Well,